Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be talking about what 6 stars to take to rank 3. More specifically, we're going to assume a couple of conditions. First and foremost, all of the mentioned champions are duped at, let's say, SIG level in between 50 to 100, because it is unlikely for vast majority of the players to actually have had access to plethora or plenty of signature stones in order to SIG 200 several 6 stars. I think at this point it's relatively reasonable to assume that if you are relatively up there, you might have had a chance to max out 1 or 2 6-star champions. But for most people, you simply have not gotten enough SIG stones to take many champions past SIG 50 to 100. So that is going to be parameter number 1, assuming that the champion signature level that you can access varies in between, let's say, SIG 50 to SIG 100. Also assuming that all of these champions that we're discussing are duped. And lastly, assuming that you might not necessarily prioritize prestige, but prestige is something at the back of your head that is also, let's say, maybe not your driving decision-making parameter, but it's also somewhere hanging in there, as I believe it should be for most people who are chasing the rank 3, because the people who are currently thinking or having access to their first or second rank 3 champions are certainly quite far in the game for prestige to be relevant, but might not necessarily be at the level where prestige is end of be all, because those alliances typically have people with already 5+ rank 3 6-star champions. So those parameters kept in mind, I'm going to go through class by class with champion suggestions who I think are best champions of each class to take up as your first rank 3 6-star of each class. And that's also quite important, because when you're taking up a second or third rank 3 6-star, then your needs changed. Also, the fact that you're not going to be likely able to give those champions signature stones until you max out some other champion. And there are several different things, and that might be an idea for a follow-up video maybe in a week or so. Basically, what are the good choices as your second, third, and so on and so forth 6-star champions. But in this focus, keep in mind awakened 6-star champions with ability to get to SIG 50 to 100, prestige somewhere in back of the mind, and I will be making sure to differentiate the role of prestige in there, and as your first rank 3 6-star of each mentioned class. So we're gonna go on from class to class, and in science class, as your first champions, there aren't actually too many that I would personally recommend myself initially, and that is, again, keeping all of the parameters in mind. I would suggest Thing, which is the choice that I went off as a first time champion to be ranked up, and the champion that I'm giving my signature stones, largely because he highly benefits from his signature ability, and that signature ability is effective the higher it goes, but it is not necessarily for it to be 200. He's a great Alliance War defender, he has quite a bit of utility, and overall, as we know, he is one of the top science champions, but he doesn't have that huge reliance on really extremely high signature level, and the extra attack and health certainly helps. So Thing would be kind of like my ideal, I suppose, first science rank up. And the second one is actually Human Torch, because Human Torch doesn't really need that signature ability. That was actually differential for me why I took Thing about Torch, because I wanted to rank up Thing and I wanted to get Thing's signature level up, because I felt that that would be significantly better investment of my signature stones rather than Human Torch's awakened ability, which is nice to have, but for vast majority of the cases, especially in kind of like Alliance War situation, doesn't really come into play. And Human Torch is also a good option to take up unduped, for instance. But in this case, as I said, we are focusing on champions that you have access to 50 to 100 SIG levels. And Torch is relatively high prestige for science class. He's not up there. He doesn't demand 200 signature level at any means, and he is a good champion, one of the top 5 science champions currently in game. So these would be the 2 science champions that I would definitely recommend taking up as your first science rank ups. Now, quickly, the reason why I cannot say the same thing, for instance, about Captain America Infinity War, because A, he's quite old champion, and vast majority of the people well, maybe not vast majority of the people, but plenty of the people already have Captain America Infinity War ranked up as a 5-star. And believe you me when I tell you, SIG 200 maxed out 5-star Captain America Infinity War is significantly better and more useful than SIG 50 or SIG 100 rank 3 Captain America Infinity War. If you have an ability to take this champion to SIG 200 flat out, yes, I would put him above there, but those are not the parameters of today's video. And then we do have some other worthwhile contenders such as Void, which again would be a decent good choice, but I do believe that SIG 200 Void is much better champion than rank 3 SIG 50 or 70 Void. So that all being said, yes, Thing and Human Torch are the champions I would suggest from Science class. Now we're going to move on to the Skill class. And Skill class overall has 2 superstar champions, and the rest of the Skill class is quite significantly lower behind. Now, first champion obviously is Aegon. I actually have recently taken my Aegon to rank 2. I didn't really tell anybody or make a video about it. But the problem with Aegon is, again, if you have done Labyrinth and Abyss, which you may or may not have, there's not real current need for SIG 100 rank 3 6-star Aegon, especially not if you already have a rank 5 5-star Aegon. So Aegon's one of those tricky champions where the rank up value significantly drops down currently if you have explored Labyrinth and Abyss. If you haven't, then by all means SIG 50, even SIG 100 Aegon is going to help you a lot, and that is kind of like an immediate rank up there. It does not need to be overly high SIG for Abyss, neither Labyrinth, and the high signature ability largely benefits you much more in shorter content. So Aegon's definitely a solid choice, but overall the best choice by far in my opinion is Nick Fury, because if need be, you can invest signature stones in him and he has decent prestige, which is what I did initially. I don't plan on giving him any more signature stones past this point anymore, but he has decently high prestige, and the most important thing is his signature ability works extremely well at low signature levels as well, and he's an absolute beast, and at rank 3 he gets significantly better because you can benefit from that adrenaline mechanic more, and him having that playstyle where you play kind of like those 30% health. Basically, the more health you have, the exponentially safer you feel with Nick Fury, and he's by far the best rank up choice for any account, in my opinion, as first skill champion to rank up. Now, with skill class, again, depending how highly you value your prestige and your personal relationships with some of the champions, another kind of like noteworthy mentions could possibly be Hitmonkey, because Hitmonkey does have really high prestige. Some people are in love with him. I personally don't have too much experience, but I don't want kind of like rule him out because he is somewhere up top prestige wise, and he also serves as a good defender and seemingly has the qualities of good attacker. Unfortunately, we haven't seen too much gameplay, and he doesn't seem to kind of like make his way into Alliance War attack or Alliance Quest attack or so on and so forth. Perhaps that will change in future with the release of Act 7, so on and so forth. But at the very least, if you take him up, he's going to have good prestige, good Alliance War defense, and he's also going to be a good questing champion. So that's a decent choice. Another, in my opinion, relatively solid choice, keeping kind of like both usability and prestige in mind and not necessarily having to have him at super high signature level, would be Stealth Suit Spider-Man. His prestige is quite up there with the best of them, and he has access to slow debuff, and he can do decent damage. He can do some stuff in Alliance Quest and Alliance War. It's definitely not my favorite champion, but overall I think the best way I could describe him would be a relatively decent alternative to choose as your first rank 3 skill champion as well. And if you are somebody who's chasing that clout, who's chasing that prestige, then obviously you have Thor Ragnarok, because Thor Ragnarok effectively is just a resource dump, right? You can put him on defense, he can do some decent work there. Offensively, you will never ever really want to use the guy, but also that being considered, he is going to serve you as a relatively high prestige option, even if you cannot get him to SIG 200 immediately. And then as you kind of like progress through the game, eventually you can feed him the signature stones and he will be the prestige powerhouse for you. Moving on to the third class now, and we're trying to speed up, Mutant Class. Mutant Class is actually the class where you have by far the most options, the largest amount of options, and you kind of have to more or less choose whether you want to go for usability, ideally, especially at medium signature levels, or you want to go for prestige. Especially because Colossus, Omega Red, and Magneto, being the 3 best mutant champions, all available as 6 stars, all have relatively junky prestige. So here is a class where you kind of have to really figure out your priorities. Because again, best 3 mutants by far, in my opinion, is Omega Red, Colossus, and Red Magneto now. Sorry, Red Magneto. And all of them have fairly junky prestige. And that is quite unfortunate. And then you have the other end where you have good mutants, maybe not the best ones, who have high prestige. But especially in case of Namor, you really do want to take him to Sig 200 in order to be able to benefit from him fully. And if he's at a low signature level, he will really only serve you as a prestige machine. Not much else is going to happen there, so he's going to effectively be quite similar level as Thor Ragnarok. You will always pick Sig 200 5-star Namor above Sig 60 rank 3 Namor. So Namor is not a great rank up unless you can get really close to those 200 signature levels, or unless you highly prioritize prestige. Speaking of prestige, there's obviously Sunspot. Sunspot is a good champion. By no means I'm not going to say that he's a bad champion. He's not quite at the level, in my opinion, of Colossus, Omega Red, and Red Magneto, but he does have the highest prestige in mutant class. And here is the coolest thing, that, again, he doesn't really need to be at Sig 200, so I think Sunspot, for people who value prestige relatively highly and also want to get a moderate to good day-to-day usable champion, Sunspot is one of the better options if you want to keep in mind, kind of like, if you want to compromise in both areas. I guess I would say, well, not really both. Prestige, you don't compromise, you go for a prestige option that also has quite good use in questing and some other content. And besides that, there are also champions that have recently become available, like Archangel. I don't expect too many people to have this guy duped, but again, I do think he is quite solid option, because he is making a huge return in metagame. He does not need to be a high signature level, Sig 20, Sig 40, Sig 60. Good enough for the guy. Not the highest prestige, extremely great utility. And then obviously we still have Apocalypse, where people are gonna have a chance to get him as a 6-star. Does not need to be high prestige, quite good prestige level. Sorry, does not need to be high signature level, quite good prestige. Can do some interesting stuff. I'm not entirely sure exactly where I would rate him in mutant class, but he definitely is a solid option as your first mutant rank 3 champion. Especially considering that this is also one of those champions who doesn't really lose much if he is not duped at all for a vast majority of the cases. And another champion that I did not want to leave out because I feel he's being treated unfairly by MCOC community is Havoc, because Havoc is again quite good alternative in between relatively high prestige that would definitely benefit you with an extremely useful and good champion. So again, mutant class has really a lot of options, and you really kind of like need to look at what you have available, what your priorities are, what you want to go with, and yeah, those are your choices. Now with Cosmic class is actually very simple. You currently have 3 good rank up options, 2 primarily for usability. You have Corvus, which is by far the best champion I think that you could take up as your initial Cosmic rank up. Decently high prestige, super useful, and greatly benefits from that extra rank and that extra reach with his 20 glaive charges. Another great option, quite obviously, is Captain Marvel movie version. In my opinion, overall, the solid 3rd best Cosmic champion in game at the moment. Unfortunately, Hyperion does not exist as a 6-star champion, and she also has high prestige, and she's very usable. So I think Corvus and Captain Marvel movie are really great options to rank up. Especially because, Corvus doesn't need to be high or max sig. Now, another thing that is coming to the contest, and is about to be released in contest properly, is Cosmic Ghost Rider. That definitely seems to be up there with the Cosmic champions as well. He does have good prestige. He seems to have potential definitely to land kind of like as one of the better, more usable Cosmic Champions, and it would be a good compromise. And he does not need his Awakened ability, or definitely at the very least doesn't need super high signature ability. So Cosmic Ghost Rider will be a solid choice as well for your first Cosmic rank up. And another special mention definitely here is going to go for Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer is again compromise in usability department, especially because his signature ability scales absolutely dreadful. For comparison, I'm going to show you that here Sig 205 star gets 50% buff, increased potency, and that's all the buff, but most significantly you want to benefit from that Fury buff and the power gain buff. And then if you take a look at my rank 3 6 star, his signature ability really doesn't scale too well. So if you set 674 is only 13% increase. So you can see that basically all of that climb comes towards the end. However, he is the highest. I think he's the highest prestige champion in the game, and he is moderately useful. I use him now and then in AQ and some other places. I'm not saying he's awful champion. He's somewhat usable, definitely better than Thor Ragnarok or even Namor at a low signature level. But at the same time, definitely there are better and more versatile Cosmic Champions, especially the 3 ones that I mentioned before. But nonetheless, if you are somebody who is kind of prestige-centric, then Silver Surfer is the champion you should go. And after that, we only have 2 classes left. I'm going to try and get through as quick as I can. Now, Tech class, in my opinion, it's extremely simple. I think the best of everything initial rank up is Warlock, because he does have high prestige, does not really demand you to be at the like super high signature levels, and he's a really great champion. So I think Warlock is the best tech champion as initial rank 3 6 star. Obviously you can also make an argument for Ghost. Problem with Ghost is obviously really ridiculously low prestige there, but if you do not care about prestige at all whatsoever, you can easily argue that Ghost would be a perfect first tech rank 3, and obviously Ghost is as dominant champion as we can find in the game, and let's say the best rank 3 6 star champion in the game, I guess, because Quake's not available as a 6 star. And then as a third mention that I also would find kind of like ideal rank up. Now this is the champion that does benefit quite significantly from a higher signature level, but still is very great as you climb that signature ladder. He's high prestige. He does have considerable amount of utility even at a lower signature levels, because of that armor buff, because of the fact that he doesn't crit. There is a taunt debuff, there's a potential for huge burst damage, and quite a lot of other cool stuff and cool synergies. And if I would have Guardian, let's say, I wouldn't have too much hesitation at, let's say, using Awakening in Gem at him, getting him to Sig 17, taking him to rank 3, because I still think he would be a really great champion. Couple other noteworthy mentions, because people would riot if I don't mention them, especially in case of Guillotine 2099. I do think she's a decent option because her prestige is quite high as well. She does have quite large following. She does have, again, decent amount of utility because she's double immune. She can power control, well, she can do all or nothing and some other stuff. She can heal, she can hit very hard, so she's not overall too bad of an option. Her biggest problem, again, is finding the spot, finding the place to live. Currently, I only use her for AQ, Map 7, Day 1, Resonating Cascade in order to avoid critting, to be honest. But aside from that, she does have her uses for sure in Act 6, Tech variant she's good for, but unfortunately she's not really good even as a rank 3 6 star for Abyss, because she cannot finish every fight at level 3. She's decent for Labyrinth, but Labyrinth isn't really a condition for a rank 3 6 star to be ranked up. And She does have some role, but not the biggest in AW or AQ. So it's not a bad option. It's definitely not my first pick though either. And then we also have Sentinel. Sentinel has all right prestige. Is a 6-star champion. Does not need to be high signature whatsoever. And is criminally underrated by MCOC community. Still maintain Sentinel to be one of the better tech champions in game. Definitely well within top 5. And in my opinion, that would be a quite solid rank up choice as well. Might not be my first option, but definitely I wouldn't feel bad about taking him up. And lastly, the Mystic Class. Mystic Class is actually very simple. You have 3 clear-cut winners. Okay, you have 1 clear-cut winner, and you have 2 quite solid runner-ups. And then you have still multiple options, because Mystic Class has been pretty much dosed up to the gills in recent year. We've had so many good Mystic champions released, but none better than Dr. Doom. So Dr. Doom is quite obviously pretty much the perfect option to rank up. Now, what makes Dr. Doom so good as a Mystic rank 3 6-star? Well, namely, it is the fact that he's a tank and he's an insanely good champion, by far the best Mystic champion in the game. Additionally, he doesn't really rely on his Awakened ability, but he certainly does benefit from it quite a bit. And again, the prestige super high, usability, tankiness, everything else super high. Signature ability doesn't have to be max sig and still gets significant benefit from it. So Dr. Doom is by far the best Mystic choice. And behind Dr. Doom, I would personally place Black Widow Clairvoyant. Black Widow Clairvoyant also, again, is high in prestige, extremely high in usability. For some accounts, might even benefit more than Dr. Doom if you are somebody who runs suicides 24/7 and doesn't really take them off. And yeah, you have everything. And signature ability, again, is something that you really don't need. She, if anything, I would kind of feel bad giving her signature abilities, signature stones, because she really doesn't have the best signature ability. But on the bright side, she also doesn't need a high signature level outside of the fact if you want to give those signature stones to her for prestige. And then you have Sorcerer Supreme, which is a solid third option. I think Sorcerer Supreme is kind of like just starting to get popular as more and more people getting her. I value her extremely highly. She is quite unique Mystic champion in the sense that taking all of those hits on the block and having access to slow, really, you cannot find it in too many different places. And I think she's extremely great choice, high prestige, one of the best Mystic champions in the class. And signature ability, again, you do benefit quite significantly. By no means is not mandatory, and signature level at 200 is not mandatory either. And then after these 3 who are clear cut, kind of like, if I have one of these 3, I would take them up without a doubt. That's kind of like the idea there. Then you have a whole bunch of other champions. You have Dragon Man, which is a great champion. Does not need max sig ability, decent prestige, so Dragon Man is solid option. Then you also have Mojo, who again doesn't, well, he does benefit from high signature ability, but he can perform at sig 50, sig 100 quite easily. Decent prestige, really good lines for defense, underrated offensive capabilities. You have Symbiote Supreme, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but decent prestige, good usability, and does not necessarily need to be super high sig to be good. Then you have like Tigra, which is good option as well, and I'm feeling that I'm missing out somebody. Sasquatch, I think. Sasquatch also is a decent option. All of these champions that I mentioned recently are new, are great, but I would have some hesitations. There definitely would be kind of like compromises about the first 3: Black Widow Clairvoyant, Dr. Doom, and Sorcerer Supreme. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video. These are actually my personal thoughts. I'm not by any chance trying to claim that I have ultimately the right and the best opinion, but these are the champions I would personally look at as my first and immediate and best options as champions, as 6 stars to take to rank 3 when I could only get them to sig 50 to sig 100 and as my first rank 3 6 stars. So anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons, and I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya!